This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of Phatts TV, sanctioned by PA Phatts and the non-genetically proven Sun. Any and all words have been authorized during the show. There is nothing off limits. Nobody is restricted from watching and participating in the show. It is a free-for-all. Commencing at the siren, any and all discussions will be legal for an extended period of time. Sports, politics, and any and all controversial topics will be talked about. You have been warned. May God be with us all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Phatts TV on this Friday night. Is it the 6th or is it the 5th? I don't even know what day it is. It is the 6th. Good, I got that right. Our first telecast of year 2023 AD. We'd like to welcome the millions and millions of you watching right now or who will be watching at your leisure at some other time. So it's an all sports Friday night and all football Friday night because, of course, what else is there really to talk about right now? Not much. Let's start with a recap of 3 bowl games. Let's start with the college football playoffs. Let's start with game number 1. We had an upset. Very, very good game. I will say, you know, usually the playoffs, the semifinals are not very good games.
No, they're really not. Because usually Alabama versus Oklahoma.
Yes.
Who doesn't deserve to be there in the first place.
Yes. Put your microphone a little closer, dude. This year, the games were very good.
Unfortunately, the first game and the second game, I missed parts of them.
Okay.
First game, I saw the entire first half. Not gonna lie, first half was fairly boring. It wasn't that exciting. It really wasn't.
Okay.
I was excited who was winning, but
Yeah.
the game physically wasn't that great. But I went out to find food, and I missed the majority of the third quarter.
Huh.
Which, there was, 50, 60 points?
There was a lot of points scored in the third quarter. Yeah, and honestly, I missed some of it too, being in the bathroom.
There you go.
I missed, in the 7 minutes I was in the bathroom, I missed 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Because I just saw, 3 plays, 70 yards, 4 plays, 70 yards. I'm like, what the heck?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't know Michigan's defense was... I understand they were probably watching the Big 12 to learn some offense. I didn't think their defense...
Yeah,
watch Big 12 defense.
It's amazing how great their defense looked the vast majority of the season. They had some games, Illinois.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
But it's Illinois, they didn't even give up 20. So, I wouldn't even say it's I think that's an offensive game right there.
Yeah. So, very surprised you and I both picked Michigan in the game last week.
Yeah, and I bet Michigan in real life, too. Because I figured that was the gimme game. I figured... And Michigan scored about what I figured they would score.
They did score a lot.
And I just didn't expect TCU to put up more.
Yes. Yes. And the second game made me realize something.
Before you get to that, what did I message you right after TCU won?
You lost your virginity, I think.
Huh.
I don't know. Let me look. Hold on. Please hold for the next available operator. Right after TCU won, you messaged me.
Well,
Hold
at
on.
least I said it to you. I don't know if it was on the phone or not. It might have been on the phone.
Hold on. Let's see here. I'm back to the No, not yet. You send me enough messages.
Says the one who messaged me today and goes, "Are you alive?"
Yeah. Yeah, the only message I got from you after that game is, "Oh my God, I lost my virginity."
All right, shut up.
That's
So I did
no,
on the phone.
yes, you did not message me after that game.
I said, "You watch." Since we both said Ohio State doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Oh yes, I do remember you. Yes,
they're going to beat TCU, and it's going to be this salt in the wound.
Yes. Yes, I do remember you saying that to me. Yes.
So go ahead.
Yes. So, watching the Ohio State-Georgia game made me realize something. That without a doubt, no questions asked, 1,000,000% true, of all the amateur, Pee-wee League, middle school, high school, college, professional teams there are on the earth, Ohio State is the one I despise the most. As much as I hate the Eagles, as much as I hate the Flyers, and I'm not, for those of you that watch this show religiously, you know I hate the Eagles and I hate the Flyers. The combined hatred I have for the two doesn't come close to the hatred I have for Ohio State.
This has got to be breaking news, because I think I asked you this about a year ago. Who do you hate more, Michigan or Ohio State? I swear you said Michigan.
No, I would have never said that. Never. I despise, can't stand, hate Ohio State. Hate them. I was so sure for basically 59 minutes and 59 seconds of that game that Ohio State was going to win.
You wanna notice something I learned from the game? You want to make the NFL.
Can you turn the volume up on your...
It's literally as close as it's getting to me, buddy.
All right, sit a little closer then.
Let me see if it's on the wrong microphone, maybe. It should be fine.
All right, let me turn the volume up. Whoa! Without dropping my speaker. All right, I just needed to turn you up. Never mind.
Okay. Better now?
Oh, yeah.
So, I learned if you want to make the NFL, there's one clear-cut way to do it. Be able to make a 50-yard field goal under any damn pressure.
Yes.
And not shank the oblivion out of it. So, just like the Michigan game, I missed the majority of the second half of that game because I fell asleep.
Oh, you were getting late again.
Sure. I woke up with like a minute to go. Saw the kick, cheered, went to bed. Well, my cheering I may have thrown some expletives out there. Like, go yourself.
I remember doing that once.
Yeah, with the crotch chop. I forget who that was against. That was against Ohio State.
Yes, it was.
That was the loudest you've ever cheered for sport. I never cheer that loud for Penn State. I will. If I'm with friends, yeah. But when Ohio State loses, I go nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yes. So your hatred for Ohio State's pretty bad too.
It's way more than Michigan.
But Michigan still sucks.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah, it was when Georgia scored to take the lead. I said that way too much time. Way too much time.
Texted me that.
I did text you that. Yes. Way too much time. I figured Ohio State was going to come down the field. And then once they got into field goal range, they really didn't try to do much. And when they lined up for the field goal, I was like, he'll make it. I had no doubt in my mind he'll make it. I'm like, what's going to like? Is he going to make the field goal that I could switch over to watch the ball? Like, you know, in New York, it happened at the same time, right? So I never saw the ball drop, but it was fine. The moment, like, it took me about a second to realize, yeah, that kick isn't going to make it. You know, I obviously didn't know it right off his foot.
Yeah.
If you watch it in slow-mo, it looked like his balance wasn't there on his plant step.
Gonna say he was a little nervous.
I would say he was, but, like, he's made big kicks before. So, I don't know, did the plant step... Like, if you really watch it in slow motion, you can see his plant step, like, it looked like it was a little off. Like that it kind of planted and slid forward just a little bit. But
that would be really hard to do on a turf field.
All you got to do is hit a wet spot. I mean, you don't know much about wet spots because you just lost your virginity, but I know plenty about the wet spot. You know.
I do want to talk about two plays.
Yes?
Which one? Do you want to talk about the Ohio State one or the TCU one?
Well, let's go TCU since that was the early game.
Was that targeting?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. He did not hit him in the head first.
It worried me that he needed to hit him at all because he didn't.
And we were on the phone when that, you know, like we were on the phone. You had called me and I'm like, wait, why hasn't this game ended yet? And then I'm like, oh no, they're checking for targeting.
Yeah.
Which would have gave Michigan a first down with 20-some seconds to go.
Yeah.
And who knows what would have happened. Of course, every Michigan fan on the face, oh, the officiating was terrible, blah, 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 blah. Well, there was an incomplete pass like a couple minutes earlier than that on their previous possession, I believe.
They dropped it. They called it a pass.
Right. Like, they could have easily reviewed it. You know, they could have blown the play dead, reviewed it. They didn't. Yeah, the targeting call, to me, it wasn't targeting. I don't know what you think.
He hit his shoulder first. It's one of those where if they called targeting, I would have been like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If they did it, I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the other play I want to talk about was the hit on Marvin Harrison fair?
Yeah, I thought it was a legal hit.
I saw it in real time. I never saw slow motion of it. And that was a perfect hit.
It was. It was a good hit. They checked that for targeting. It was not targeting. I mean, he didn't lower his helmet, if I remember. Like, he didn't hit him with the crown of his helmet. The call would have been, did he hit a defensive player? But you are trying to dislodge the ball from a player scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
You got to be able to make a hit. You have to.
Right.
I mean, oh, what? We're just going to allow the player to catch a ball now and score a touchdown? So, yes, of course, the Ohio State idiots were all up in arms on that one as well. Now, if Marvin Harrison stays in the game, I completely think you have a different outcome to that game.
They couldn't stop him.
Right.
Who can?
Right. I'm telling you, and I've said it before on this show, he's going to be, like, better than his father, and his father for a long time was the best receiver in the NFL. And he's going to be better than his daddy.
Easily.
Assuming that's his daddy.
I mean, just watching him, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude's always open.
Yeah. I mean, against college team, against, inferior college athletes. Is he going to be like that in the pros? No, but he's going to be one of the, I would have no problem drafting him very high in fantasy football.
Give him a couple years, he'll figure it out.
Yes. I'm kind of hoping he leaves after this year. I don't know if he can. I don't know if I think he's a sophomore and he's like not a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah, he has to stay another year.
Yeah, and then he's gone. Like you got to imagine he's going to leave after his junior year.
Probably. I
mean, he could easily be a top 3 pick, if not a top pick. Depending upon, the needs of, whoever has the top pick.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a fantastic pro player. I mean, he could even win the Heisman next year. Easily.
Peg says, yo.
Yo. He said he might join in tonight.
So, you mentioned Heisman. I saw an article this week. The way too early favorites for the Heisman next year.
PA Phatts. I still have eligibility.
And I said it to somebody at work. And I go, who do you think are the couple just favorites? They didn't put odds or anything. They just threw out a couple names. And Marvin Harrison was not one of them.
Well, because a lot of people don't think of receivers.
That was the first name in my head was Marvin Harrison. I'm like, him, people seem to think Penix from Washington.
Eh.
I mean, he's probably the other two I saw were Aller and Singleton.
No.
Not yet.
No. Not as sophomore.
Aller's not going to come in right away. I have a feeling we'll get to this more later. But I think Penn State's going to struggle a little bit to start next year. Just slow. They'll win, but they'll be slow.
It depends. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't know what good quarterbacks come back next year. Is Ohio State's quarterback is he back next year? Is Alabama's quarterback back next year? You know,
I'm just going off of their schedule. So like they open with West Virginia.
Okay.
Not exactly a pushover game.
Yeah. Who are we talking about?
Huh?
Who are we talking about?
West Virginia?
Who are we talking about? Who are they playing?
Penn State.
Thank you. Okay.
That's what I mean. Penn State plays West Virginia.
Right. I said we'll talk about Penn State in a minute, and you keep talking about Penn State.
All right.
I need to know who's all back. I don't follow it enough to know what quarterbacks are coming back or not. If Ohio State's quarterback is coming back, he's the favorite. If Alabama's quarterback is coming back, he's in the top 3. Harrison, you have to put him in the top 3.
Alabama's quarterback's not.
Okay. No. I don't know what running backs are coming back. Like, I don't follow it that close. I could care less. Let's move on to the recap of the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl,
Penn State, Utah. Tale of two halves, basically.
Yeah.
Very even first half, and then once Utah's quarterback left the game, it was over.
Yeah.
It was over. The one thing that jumped out at me at this game, and I think if you asked 1,000 people, you wouldn't get this answer once.
Okay.
Is usually Manny Diaz. Now, you're at all Penn State home games, so you witnessed this more than I do. So correct me if I'm wrong. Manny Diaz is usually energetic on the sidelines.
Oh, extremely.
Well, he didn't. Every time the camera flashed to him, he was just standing there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he might have been sick, under the weather, or was something going on in his head. He didn't announce at all this week that he was leaving, so I'm assuming he's coming back.
No, he would have announced that either right after the bowl or before, and he just wouldn't have been there.
Right. So I'm just going to go under the assumption that he was sick, but every time the camera panned on him, he was just standing there. It was really weird.
He's usually I don't know if he yells like Franklin may yell.
I don't think
scream.
Franklin is.
He's more of a just like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't really do a whole lot.
No.
But his scheming was weird in the first half. Like he's normally blitz. He didn't blitz.
He didn't.
He wouldn't pressure in the first half. In the second half, he was like, we're gonna finally.
Well, yeah, especially once the backup quarterback came in.
I mean, you send 5 at him.
Yes.
Instead of sending 3 or 4, it just wasn't working.
Yes. So, of course, the 2 big plays in the game, the 80-some-odd yard run and the 80-some-odd yard pass.
Hey, Penn State's got something for making long runs in the Rose Bowl.
They do. They do.
It's got something for 80-some yard runs in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. Yep. It's a thing of glory. I mean, when Singleton is not the skinniest person. Like, he's not fat at all.
No.
But he's got a little muscly bulk to him.
Right.
Like Saquon did when Saquon was at Penn State. And the way that they could pull away from secondaries is what amazed me. I understand, obviously, you're going to run faster than linemen. You're probably going to, God bless you, if that was a sneeze.
That was a cough.
God cough you. You're going to probably, the good ones are going to outrun linebackers, but you normally don't run cornerbacks and safeties.
Yeah.
Well, you go back and watch that play. He pulled away from everybody.
Yeah, Hurstpick goes, in a foot race. That wasn't a foot race.
No.
He beat me 10 yards. In a foot race. He was gone.
Yeah, when you are have that much space going into the end zone and you start holding the ball out, I'm always worried that you're going to drop the ball before the end zone.
All right, only one receiver has ever done that.
Oh, it's happened more than you think it has.
Okay, but he's not that much of a bonehead.
No, he didn't. If I coached a team, I would, especially at the college level, you score a touchdown, you hand the ball to the official. Then you know you scored. You don't screw it, dropping the ball on the half-yard line.
Yeah.
You score, you hand the ball to the official.
Now, regarding the other touchdown, the Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yes.
That was, I think, the game he needed.
Absolutely.
He was never going to be the number one. He could be, but he needed some sort of confidence. Because he is good, of course. He's good.
Sure.
They're all good.
Yeah.
But I think that really shows that he can be the true number two, the replacement to Tinsley that we needed.
Uh-huh.
He's fast, and he can run that post route exactly what we need.
Right.
And it helps when Clifford had the best game of his life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
I'm sure you saw the picture that I posted after the game. When just the field lights were on and he was just sitting on his helmet in Utah's end zone, just taking it all in.
Yeah. That was a nice photo.
It was. It was. You should have been there taking it.
So I probably wouldn't have saw it because I bet you he did that a half an hour after the game and nobody's out there and just somebody probably got very lucky to see that he was walking out there and just went and grabbed their camera. Because there's only one person I saw have that photo. Nobody else had it. So somebody got extremely lucky.
Yes. 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 So, the Sean Clifford career is over. Had a lot of ups, had a lot of downs.
No, I'm going to say thank God.
I was going to joke that there was breaking news this week that the NCAA announced that he could have 4 more years of eligibility. Just to have all you Penn State people go nuts. And that he's already been announced as the starter for the next 4 years. Just to screw with you guys. So, what's your, final synopsis of Clifford?
When he is confident and he has a decent line in front of him, he's not a bad quarterback. He's a top 25 quarterback. I'd put him somewhere probably around 20, 15 to 20 out of everybody in college. The problem is when he doesn't have that, he sucks.
Yes.
If he doesn't have time to sit in the pocket and read, forget it. He takes too many sacks. He's not fast, so he's not very scramble-like.
Right.
He's very pro-style, which is actually what I like. I don't really care for this dual-threat quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it works.
Well, it certainly doesn't work in the pro level. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's come around more.
I mean, Justin Fields looks good for 1 year.
Yeah.
mean, Lamar Jackson, he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with dual threat quarterbacks is they tend to wind up getting hurt too much in the playoffs.
Yeah, they get hit.
Yes.
And I want a quarterback that's going to throw it. And for the next 2 years, Penn State's got that. Because Drew Aller is not quick. He is a big, rumbly guy.
Yeah.
He is going to throw the ball.
He is.
He can zip it.
Yes. He reminds me of somebody before your time, Kerry Collins.
But back to Clifford, I think that game may have cemented him onto an NFL roster.
We'll see. That remains to be seen. For me, what held Clifford back as much as it did, so three things. A, he never had the great offensive line.
Right.
B, he was hurt too much.
Right.
That really, like last year's team, I thought could have been really, really good, but he got hurt.
Right.
And then he played hurt the second half of the season.
Like, here's a good example. Put Clifford in the Mac Jones era at Alabama. Is Clifford a first-round draft pick playing for New England right now?
Yes.
I'd say yeah.
Yes.
Because I think Clifford was better than Mac Jones.
I would agree.
I think Clifford's better than Trace McSorley.
I would agree.
And Trace McSorley's freaking starting right now.
I mean, the one thing Trace had, definitely faster.
Yeah, he could get out of sticky situations, but I thought Clifford was much more football smart.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. But the big rub on Sean Clifford that he alleviated a little bit in this last game, he could never win the big game.
Very true.
I mean, never beat Ohio State.
Only beat Michigan like once.
Right, when Michigan wasn't all that good.
That was the year they started. That was COVID year, so that doesn't even count.
Right. And I've said this several times on and off this show. For Penn State, you can't look at the COVID year because I truly think Sandy Barber held the team back. Said, the NCAA had their rules for COVID. I think Penn State's rules were a lot more strict. Like, you couldn't practice nearly the amount of time that the NCAA was allowed. I don't have any proof of that.
Yeah.
So, to me, you just, put a big red X through the COVID year and don't even look at the stats from that year.
He did beat Michigan the year before in a whiteout, but I think the defense won that game, not the offense.
Did. And again, Michigan wasn't what Michigan is now back then.
No, their lines are so good now.
Yes. So, the championship game, Monday night, the line opened at 13.5, 62-ish. Last I looked, it's come down a point to 12.5, and the over-under went up to 63. So, does TCU have a chance?
In my head, I want to say no. But they just beat Michigan, who I thought was the number one team in the nation. So, you have to give them a chance.
So, is it in your head because you have a bias to the SEC?
Maybe. And I think it's more of you have a negative connotation to the Big 12. Maybe not to the SEC, maybe to the Big 12. Like, if it was Michigan, Georgia, I don't think I'd be so lopsided on this game. But Georgia's, defending. They looked a little last week. TCU's playing on house money.
Absolutely.
So I feel like TCU's going to just take the chances. And if they lose, whatever. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, you're already where you probably shouldn't have been anyways. Because you were projected to go 500 at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that you made the playoffs is great. And then you actually won in the playoffs is greater. So I think TCU should go into this game, whether they win or lose, it doesn't matter. Georgia, obviously, if they lose, they'll probably see it as a failure of a season.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think that could lead to TCU taking more chances. And I would like to say Michigan's defense is better than Georgia's, but it's hard to take Georgia's defensive play against Ohio State because Ohio State is probably the best offense in the country. Or very arguably one or two.
Yeah.
But I thought Michigan's was number one. So it's like,
I mean, how many points did Ohio State score against Michigan, and how many points did TCU score? Now, again, you can't look at one game, and compare it. You know, if TCU had to play Michigan again this week, chances are Michigan wins the game.
Yeah, I don't think TCU would ever been able to stop the run game, and Michigan's game is so. I don't like how Michigan plays football. I think it's very boring. Run the ball, pass it a little bit, and then every now and then they have that long pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like pitch and run, pitch and run.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why their one receiver who's good is in the portal, because he wants to be a receiver.
Yes. So I think one of the keys to this game is, will Darnell Washington be available to play for Georgia? Their tight end, if you don't know who I'm referring to.
I wasn't sure who you were talking about.
Number 0. You know, their tight end that looks like, you know, he could lift a house off of its foundation.
So he's Derrick Henry size.
But taller.
What? Taller?
Taller. I mean, that guy's like a man beast. Like, you can't cover him. You know, TCU, I don't think would have an answer for him. Like, that was a huge injury for Georgia in that game when he couldn't come back. That injury, I'm not going to say is as big as Harrison's injury was for Ohio State, but damn near close. Very close.
I don't know a ton about either team. I can't say I follow either conference, to be honest. So it's like once you start naming, like I can't name pretty much anyone on either team.
All right. So, forced prediction. Give me a score.
It's so tough. It's so tough. Very tough. But I'll say it'll come down to the fourth quarter. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. Well, TCU's definitely not going to blow out Georgia. I think that's the least possible thing to happen. I don't think Georgia's going to blow them out of the water. I think Georgia's going to play, I don't want to say safe, but I don't think they're going to play so balls to the wall as TCU might try to play. I don't think either team's going to score a crazy amount of points like the semis were. So I'll go with 31-28 Georgia.
See, now, I think there is going to be points scored in this game. At least by Georgia. The question is TCU going to be able to keep up? Basically said the same thing last week.
Right.
You know, 'cause remember you asked me last week, how many points does TCU need to score to win?
Right.
And if you recall, I said 36. I said because Michigan is a shoo-in for 35.
Well, then you just score 46.
Well, I think Georgia is, again, a shoo-in for 35 in this game.
Okay.
I think Georgia wins. I'm going to keep it inside the 12.5.
I like TCU to cover that. I do like TCU to cover that.
So, but by saying you said 31-28, you're siding with the under. I think it goes over. I think it's more like a 45-39 kind of game.
I'm going to be rooting for TCU. I'd like something different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This game is very much the whole world is going to be rooting for TCU unless you don't like TCU or you like Georgia.
Yes.
Only reason no one's rooting for TCU.
Yes.
Everyone wants to see it. It's great. Everyone wants upsets.
Yes.
But 12.5, that's a lot. You're pretty much telling me the number 1 team in the nation is 2 touchdowns better than the number 3 team in the nation?
That's
like
what you're saying.
That's a lot of points.
That is a lot of points. That is a lot. And Georgia all of a sudden is giving up points. I mean, they did give up how many to LSU? They gave up 30 to LSU and 41 to Ohio State. So they are giving up points all of a sudden. Like, they were a juggernaut all throughout the season on the defensive side of the ball. And now the last 2 games, they've given up the most that they've given up by 10. By 8. Before that, they gave up 22 to Missouri and, believe it or not, 22 to Kent State.
Yeah, I remember Kent State.
when they probably played their backups. But now, all of a sudden, their last 2 games, they've given up 30 and 41. So they can be scored on. TCU can score. We've shown that the last, they just put up 50-some against Michigan, but you would have never thought that was going to happen. Never.
No way.
So, I'm going to say 45-39. So we got one more thing to talk about in college before we go to pros, and that has to do with Michigan. And we're going to dovetail a little bit into Penn State with this, which I wasn't thinking even about doing until I saw the way you wanted to do this part. So it turns out Michigan's in a little bit of trouble.
Correct.
They are under investigation for some violations that occurred during the recruiting dead period during COVID-19. Because apparently, when that was going on, you weren't allowed to recruit. Well, so the violations include alleged impermissible contact with recruits during the NCAA-mandated dead periods, as well as the use of a defensive analyst for on-field coaching activities, which was a rule violation during COVID times. Sources told ESPN that Harbaugh's cooperation with NCAA enforcement staff during this investigation is also being examined. So to me, that says he wasn't very forthcoming.
Right.
Harbaugh could face penalties that include multi-game suspensions, so sources say. On Friday, Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel, at least his name isn't Ward Pickles, issued a statement saying, "Yesterday, we received draft allegations from the NCAA regarding our football program. We have cooperated and will continue to cooperate with this investigation. Out of respect for the NCAA's enforcement process, we will not further commentate, or we will not offer further comments." According to a source, the NCAA's draft of notice of allegations include a level 1 violation from Harbaugh for not complying with or misleading NCAA investigators. Level 1 violations are the most serious and can lead to harsher penalties. The draft also includes 4 level 2 violations centered around the impermissible recruiting contact during the COVID period. These violations are less serious and are the ones Harbaugh was asked about by NCAA enforcement staff. NCAA bylaws, blah, 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 blah. Harbaugh, in response to reporters about his potential return to the NFL, released a statement Thursday afternoon suggesting he will remain for a 9th season as Michigan's coach.
I was just about to say that. I was like, he said this week he wants to stay at Michigan's coach. I think he's lying through his teeth.
Is Jim Harbaugh on his way out of Michigan?
Personally, yeah, I think so. I think too many NFL coaches are getting fired this year. After this week, there's going to probably be, 5, 6 that are going to get fired. You're going to tell me the contract's not going to be juicier and he's going to go?
So it's going to be, but I don't think he wants to step into a place where he's going to have to rebuild the team.
I think he can go to Denver.
I think what I heard is there's already an offer on the table to go to Denver.
I think that'd be a good spot because you don't have to rebuild the defense. You need a quarterback. That's it. They have everything you need to be a good team. They are not a 4-12 team. They are just not. They are a much better team.
So he did interview for the Minnesota job last year, which I don't remember that, but he did.
I think I remember reading about it, yeah.
Which he told Michigan, specifically Manuel, not Mr. Pickles, that his NFL pursuit was a one-time thing and would not be reoccurring every year.
I think he's lying through his teeth. I think he's saying what he has to say. I think he's going to continue to say what he has to say, but if something slips and he can get in the NFL, he's going to take it. Because he can always get a college job. If it doesn't work out, he could literally get a college job. Unless he literally gets told he can't.
So, the question is Jim Harbaugh a better pro coach or a better college coach? He did lead San Francisco to the Super Bowl when he was in the pros, which he lost to his brother in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he still has the itch to go to pro. He spent a lot of time in college. He's coached like 3 or 4 different college teams. So the question is, what does he really have the itch? I think if he won a national championship this year, he would be gone.
It's hard to know if he's better. He's a defensive guy, I think. He seems to always have a good defense.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's coached college before Michigan.
Stanford.
To be honest. Was that when Stanford was good?
Yes.
Like 10 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
He's been successful every place he's gone.
So you would say if he's successful everywhere, you'd say the NFL. He's better.
I mean, in actuality, where he's been the least successful is at Michigan. And he's got a .74 win percentage at Michigan. I mean, he's 74. He's 74-25 in 99 games at Michigan. But that's not good enough for Michigan.
Let's say in college, if you're not going undefeated with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Alabama, Clemson, blah, 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 you're not doing good enough.
Yes. I mean, if you recall, a couple of years ago, they talked about, is Michigan going to fire Jim Harbaugh? And Jim Harbaugh took a pay cut for him, and I believe his staff, until he could prove himself, which now, the last 2 years, he's certainly proved himself.
Right.
I mean, hell, he's beat Ohio State. When was the last time that happened before Harbaugh was there? It's been a while.
Especially in Ohio State.
Yes.
And they embarrassed him in Ohio State.
Yes.
They embarrassed him the last 2 years.
I'm happy about that.
It's better than watching Ohio State win the Big Ten.
Anytime that fucking team from Ohio could lose, I'm very happy.
I think he could leave. But it wouldn't surprise me if he stayed as long. If everything blows over, he might stay another year until they don't make the playoffs next year. Then he'll leave. Because I know what I wrote in the schedule saying right after this is Penn State going to run the Big Ten now for the next couple of years.
Not next year.
Not next year. Michigan still?
Or Ohio State. Both of them are going to be better than Penn State next year.
Does Penn State beat Michigan at home?
Pull up their schedule and let me know when they play them. The later, the better.
Mid-November?
They have a better chance than if they faced them early October.
It's like mid to late November. Uh, 2023. Go. All right. November 11th.
So
the
that's
third to last game.
that better than October 11th.
It's not going to be their whiteout as we've discussed. Probably.
Well, at worst, it's their stripe out. Not that that matters.
Yeah, it should be a primetime game as long as Fox doesn't gobble it up. But they very well might.
Well, Fox has the rights to the Big Ten.
So yeah, it's going to be a new game.
But no, if it's November the 11th, is the World Series over by then? That's the big determining factor about whether it's nighttime or not. And it should be over by then. It should be over if it goes like 7 games. It should be over like it might be over like the day after that, so the day before is a travel day. So that could be a night game.
I'd have to do some digging if I can find a schedule for that. If there is one.
Yeah, let's not worry about that now. So, I mean, Penn State next year, really, how quick is Drew Allar going to pick up the system? I will say he's going to be a great quarterback for Penn State eventually. He didn't really impress me that much this year. I mean, he passes the ball fantastically.
But my harp with it is when he was in, the offense was dumbed down.
Yes.
Because this year now, instead of him adapting to the offense is going to adapt to him.
Yes. True.
I think they're going to change it around Drew because I don't think it's going to be so much. I'm really hoping Mike just gets rid of pass option. I hope that's just gone. I mean, I'm okay with it here and there if you want to do it, but I don't want to see it every other play. I want you to run I, T, and play under center. You finally have a quarterback that could do that. Play under center. It will work. I'm not a coach. I'm not going to claim to be a coach.
Well, the only way that they're going to play with an I formation is they need a fullback.
Katron Allen could be a fullback.
No. If you tell him he's moving to fullback, he's transferring. He's not playing fullback.
He could play fullback, but he's not going to be just a fullback.
He's not. He's not going to become a lead blocker. No. That's not happening. And I'm not even saying you have to play out of the I. It's just you have to play out of that T.
That's
that T, obviously you're young. I wasn't really alive. The T formation kind of had left the NFL and college, when I was born and stuff. But what's old is new again. That it works until people learn to figure it out. You have 2 studs at running back. You put a blocker in Penn State's case, a tight end between them. You don't know which way they're running.
I mean, it's what's it called? What's the most unstoppable play in the NFL right now?
The quarterback kneel down.
The Eagles on whatever and one on a quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
Nobody could stop it. What's the most unstoppable play in probably college football? The Penn State's T formation inside of 5 yards. You just can't stop it. You just can't.
Yeah.
I mean, Brenton Strange, probably one of the best tight end blockers in the nation.
Yeah.
And then the 2 best freshman running backs in the nation. Good luck.
Yeah.
Like you're just not gonna stop it.
Yeah. You can run it either way. Like that's the cool part. Like that's a great play. So I'm hoping it's
out a way to almost fake it.
Oh, they will. Oh, they could design passes out of it.
You fake it and then just roll out wide open every time.
I mean, you could easily have another tight end. Sure,
4 in the backfield with the quarterback under center. That'd be something.
Well, no, you wouldn't have all 4 in the backfield. You would have your tight end on the line.
That would be so cool.
But no, Penn State is a year away. I think, barring injuries, barring transfers, when those players are juniors, they will contend for the national championship. They have Ohio State at home that year. They will be able to beat Michigan that year. They will contend for the national championship, in my mind, without a doubt. That's where I'm just going to leave Penn State.
So next year the goal is Rose Bowl. I don't think it's in the playoffs. So,
they're going to win a bunch of games, obviously. I don't think they could beat Ohio State next year. I don't think they're going to be there yet. They could beat Michigan next year. And we'll see how else the season plays out. But it could be a small step backwards till Drew becomes what he's meant to be. This summer is going to be an incredibly important summer for him to learn, to keep learning. The more time he could spend with his receivers, the better. Now, under NCAA rules, it's limited. It's not like in pros.
Yeah.
In NCAA, it's a little limited. So, we'll see. But speaking of pros, good segue. We are into the final week of the season. To me, I've always felt that the first week of the season is the easiest to bet. The last week of the season is the hardest to bet. I'm gonna give you a stat right now.
Okay.
Or how about this? In the last 2 weeks of the season, if a team needs to win the game to make the playoffs,
right?
This goes back to 1990, so 32 years now. If a team needs to win the game to make the playoffs, so winning they're in, losing they're out. Okay? So we're talking last week, and especially more this week. You win and you're in, you lose, you're out. In the last 32 years, playing against a team that has already been eliminated, the team that needs to win and in has covered what percentage of the games?
That's win and in has covered?
Yes, covered.
37%.
Wow. 38. So
I know it's like what I said with TCU. If you want to try, you're not playing with any pressure. So just play.
yes.
And that's when you play your best.
Yes. You see it all the time. All the time. Where teams who need to win play tight. And the lines get inflated because, Joe Public thinks, oh, well, they need to win and they're in, so I'm just going to bet them. And the lines get inflated. Yes. So we're on to week 18. So let's look at some of the current lines, shall we?
Some of them are a little weird, I noticed. But then I read into them a little bit more, and they weren't so weird. But at first glance, they were like, huh.
So I'll read to you what the lines are and what they were as of last Saturday.
Okay.
Okay? So right now, Kansas City is a 9.5-point favorite. Last Saturday, they were a 10.5-point favorite. So it hasn't moved much.
No.
Jacksonville is a 6.5-point favorite. Last week at this time, they were a 5.5-point favorite. Not a lot of movement. Cincinnati is a 9-point favorite, which probably means that someone's not starting at quarterback. You wouldn't think that the line would be that big. Last week, they were a 6-point favorite. New Orleans is a 3-point favorite. They were a 3-point favorite last week. That game, no playoff potential there either way. Pittsburgh is a 2.5-point favorite. They were a 2-point favorite. Indianapolis is a 3-point favorite. They were a 2.5-point favorite. Minnesota is a 6-point favorite. They were just a 2.5-point favorite.
Justin Fields isn't playing.
Justin Fields is not playing. That is correct. Buffalo is a 7-point favorite. They were a 10-point favorite last week.
Wow.
Miami is a 3.5-point favorite. They were a 1-point underdog last Saturday.
Interesting, since they're first string starting?
a lot of people thought that the Jets were going to win that game last week against Seattle. Miami still has something to play for. They could still make the playoffs. So what is the John Q. Public doing?
That game is Dolphins third stringer. I don't think he's ever played versus Joe Flacco.
Really?
Who might be the best Jets quarterback?
Really? Flacco's playing, not what's his name?
Mike White?
Yeah.
He's injured.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, Joe Flacco's injured.
Atlanta is a 4-point favorite. Last week they were a 1-point favorite. And then, by the way, on Monday they went up to a 7.5-point favorite. Because they just assumed that no starters were playing. Now some starters are playing some.
They said they're going to play.
Yes.
I think it's stupid to start some players, to be honest.
Well, according to Tom Brady, they got some things to work out.
Duh, you're 8-8. You got some things to work out.
San Francisco is a 14-point favorite. They were a 10.5-point favorite. Dallas is a 7-point favorite. There was no line last Saturday. On Monday, they were 5.5. Denver is a 3-point favorite. They were a 1.5-point favorite. And then on Monday, they were a 3-point underdog. So that line has flipped 6 in 4 days. Obviously, some people not projected to play for the Chargers. Seattle, which is a 6-point favorite, was a 3-point favorite last Saturday. The Eagles are a 14-point favorite. They were a 3-point favorite last Saturday. Then all hell broke loose. They lost on Sunday. The Giants won to make the playoffs. Now the Eagles got to win to make the number 1 seed. Ergo, the line flies up. And lastly, Green Bay is a 4.5-point favorite. They were a 3-point favorite last Saturday. So you got some line movement. Not a lot in most games, but some games it's over 10 points of line movement. So we actually have a couple contests.
Yes, we do.
Besides the Phatts Phantastic Phive. We have to determine next week when the playoffs start, assuming everything with how the playoffs are going to work. If Buffalo and Kansas City make the AFC Championship game, or Kansas City and Cincinnati, and Kansas City's the number 1 seed. If you guys haven't been watching, that game is now going to be played on a neutral field. At least that's what the NFL was voting on this afternoon. I don't know how the vote went. I was way too busy with work today. I was supposed to have this afternoon off. That never happened. So they figured Cincinnati was going to vote no on this because of what the rules actually say, what they're supposed to do when there's game cancellations. You're just supposed to go off of winning percentages. So next week,
they vote in favor.
So they went against their own rules, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
That would be what the NFL would do. So next week, we pick teams. Team non-genetically proven son, Team Phatts. We each pick 7 teams. Nobody could have the same teams. So the first person picks 1 team. The next person picks 2 teams. Player 1 picks 2 teams, 2 teams, 2 teams, 2 teams. Then the last person picks the one remaining team. So usually the person who has the best record in the Phatts Phantastic Phive gets the choice. Well, we didn't do that this year because we haven't been keeping track of the Phatts Phantastic Phive records because I would have killed him this year. because he started out like crap. So what we decided to do last week is we were going to play straight up confidence pool for this week, with a tiebreaker being the total score in the Detroit Green Bay game.
Without going over.
Without going over, yes. So I made my picks last night. And when I got the non-genetically proven son about 20 minutes before we went live, I was like, oh, wow, we only disagree on 2 games. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great.
16 games, we agree on 14 of them.
Yeah. So let me shrink this down a little bit so it'll fit. Whee! So on the left is the non-genetically proven son's picks. And on the right are my picks. So, the only games we differ on is he has Carolina where I have New Orleans. He has Seattle where I took the Rams.
And we both have them fairly low on our confidence.
Right. Yes. Now, the one game I was going to take, like I had intended to take Tampa, but I figured he was going to take Tampa. So I ended up taking Atlanta, but I made that my 1 anyway.
I made it my 6.
So this is probably going to come down to the confidence points part of it. Now, our 16s are the same. We both have San Francisco as our 16s. He has Kansas City as his 15. I have Minnesota as my 15. This is straight up. Don't forget, this has anything to do with lines. I made Minnesota my 15 because I think Chicago is going to be playing to lose. He has Dallas as his 14. I have Indianapolis as my 14. I have Indianapolis so high because Houston's going to be playing to lose.
I have them at 12 for
if
that.
If Houston
reason.
loses, they get the number 1 draft pick. You have Philly as your 13. I have Kansas City as my 13. You have Indy as your 12. I have Philly as my 12. So, like, we even have, like, the high numbers, like, pretty close to the same. I have Green Bay as my 11. You have Buffalo as your 11. I have Cincinnati at 10. You have Minnesota at 10. I have Buffalo at 9. You have Cincinnati at 9. I have Dallas at 8. You have Green Bay at 8. I have Chargers at 7. You have Jacksonville at 7. I have Jacksonville at 6. You have Atlanta at 6. That's where I'm going to beat you if Tampa wins that game. Right there. You have Pittsburgh at 5. I have Pittsburgh at 5. You have Carolina at 4. I have the Rams at 4. You have Seattle at 3. I have the Jets at 3. You have New Orleans at 2. I have New Orleans at 2. You have the Chargers at 2. And you have the Jets at 1. And I have Atlanta at 1. You have the tiebreaker at 39. I have it at 41. So I kind of have the advantage in the tiebreaker.
Yeah. You know what the original number I put in?
41 or 42?
41.
41. No, we're not related.
Because I'm like, I don't want to, like, in my head, I think it's going to be, like, somewhere in the 40s. So I'm just like, well, I don't want to go over. That's like I just don't want to go over.
Yes.
So I'm just like, but I'm thinking, if I put 39, he's going to put, like, 40. Okay, so mad.
Well, the chances of us tying are slim, but it can happen.
Yeah.
It can certainly happen. And all this is we decide who gets to pick the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So, and you never know. Maybe the non-genetically proven son doesn't want the number 1 pick, and maybe I do want the number 1 pick, so it really doesn't matter who wins this.
True.
Or we could both want the number 1 pick, then it does matter who wins this.
True.
I mean, the one advantage he has is, at least on the surface, he thinks if I take the number one pick, he thinks he knows who I'm taking. Because I've only been saying it for 2.5 months. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Taking Philly.
No, Tampa.
At least in the 4 seed.
I mean, again, if you guys have been watching this show and listening for the last 2.5 months, you know who I say is winning the Super Bowl. I have no idea who he thinks has the best chance of winning the Super Bowl. So if I get the first pick, do I take the team that I think so I get my team, or do I think he thinks there's another team that he wants to take so that I know I get my pick? Unless if he also thinks that the team that I think is going to win the Super Bowl is going to win the Super Bowl. Then we both want the first pick. So, it could be interesting next week to see who's going to get the first pick. Very interesting. So that's a little something that we do. I believe we've split, or have I won both years?
I don't remember who had the Rams last year. I had the Bagels.
I believe I had the Rams last year.
The year before that, you had Tampa, I think, because I wanted them.
So I've won both years.
I think so, yeah.
Just as it should be.
Because last year I gave you both number 1 seeds, and you're like, why'd you do that?
That's right. Yes, I remember that. All right. And now as we finish up how we do every week, the Phatts Phantastic Phive. This is our opportunity to tell you what to play to make money this week. Or, if you don't like our picks, what to play against.
Play my fantasy picks in fantasy soccer, because that's what I make money in.
Okay, then.
Don't do this.
So let's look at the non-genetically proven Sons picks from last week. He had Georgia minus 5.5.
Wow.
Oops. He had... We were head-to-head on this game. Iowa, Kentucky over 31.
Hey, it looked good after the first half.
Oops.
Hey, it looked good when Kentucky, their first 3 plays, had 3 first downs.
They did.
And then that was about all the offense they had.
That's about all the first downs they had for the rest of the game. You had Green Bay minus 3. That was a win, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they won by 30 or something like that.
Over Minnesota, yes.
Yeah.
You had Carolina plus 4. How'd that work out for you?
I think they lost by 5, didn't they?
I don't know who they play. I don't even remember who they play.
Oh, we're great hosts. Carolina. They lost by 6 to Tampa.
Oopsie. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's where you said, yeah, they'd get screwed.
That's right, yes, because I said there was no way the NFL was allowing Carolina to win this game. There was no way. No way. And then you had Chicago plus 6.
They lost by like 20.
Oops.
30. 31.
Oops. So a really good 1-4 week for you. Bazinga. So let's look at your picks this week. We actually do have an agreement on one game.
Yeah, the first one.
You have Houston team total under 17.5. Love the pick. Love it. Absolutely love it.
I'm not even sure Indy's going to score that much, but they're not. Indy's going to win. So,
love the pick. Absolutely love the pick. You have Miami and the Jets, 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 under 37. I could see that easily happening, especially if with Joe Flacco playing the game.
Hey, Joe Flacco's a veteran. He's won a Super Bowl.
And at one time, he was the highest paid quarterback in the league.
What? $2 million?
Now he can't run.
He does a good job sitting on the sidelines.
He does.
Or standing on the sidelines.
He does. Your third pick I thought was a little interesting. Pittsburgh laying 2.5. Now, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. Things got to fall right for them. Shockingly. Mike Tomlin never had a losing season still. But they need this win for that to continue.
Or tie.
Or tie. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going with the trends here. Mike Tomlin's not going to have a losing season. Because he's going to try. Cleveland's not really going to try in this game. I personally don't think.
Cleveland's
Mike Tomlin's going to try.
My son is going to try.
Peoples-Jones?
Donovan Peoples-Althouse. He scored last week.
He scores almost every week.
That's my boy. That's my boy. You have Arizona team total under 12.5. That's a low team total.
I think Arizona wants to get out of the game and go home. I don't think they want to play.
J.J.
Who's
Watts?
Is McSorley still starting?
I don't think so. I don't know who's playing for him.
Oh, he's not starting. He's injured.
I don't know.
Murray may play?
No, Murray,
no,
no, he's out. Is Colt McCoy playing?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because San Francisco's going to try.
San Francisco could still get the 2 seed.
So they're going to try.
Yeah.
So I don't see why they don't
In fact,
play defense.
is there a way that they could even still get the 1 seed?
I don't know if Dallas wins, Eagles lose, and they win. I don't know if they can get the 1 seed that way.
Yeah, we're, like he said earlier, we're really good hosts for knowing this stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have an interesting pick. You have the Rams +6. What is your reasoning? Seattle needs to win. To make
That's
the playoffs,
why.
right? Okay. So
Seattle needs to win, and I don't. Seattle's been very. How do you put it? 50-50 this year. Like, they're good. They have. Geno Smith has shown, I think, he's a good quarterback this year. But they lose stupid games. They've lost a number of stupid games this year, and the Rams have been playing better. I'm going to be rooting for Seattle, because if Seattle wins, I'm not sure Detroit's going to care. If Detroit was already out, then I'd be worried about Green Bay maybe. But since Detroit can have their heart ripped out before they even play,
right before they play,
I don't think they will care if Seattle wins. But I think it'll be a really close game. And it'll come down to the end. Baker will have a drive maybe to win the game, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So your picks are Houston team total under 17.5, New York Jets, Miami under 37, Pittsburgh -2.5, Arizona team total under 12.5, and surprisingly the Rams +6. Okay. Let's look at my picks from last week. Now, I only ended up having 4 picks because I had Cincinnati. So that game obviously got canceled. Georgia, over 34.5. Told you, love the game. USC, team total over 32.5. Easy money. That covered in the third quarter.
How the hell they lost the game? Don't know how you lose in Tulane when you're trying.
Iowa, Kentucky. Told you it was going to be like a 13-3 kind of game.
21-0.
21-0.
Here, you want to know a stat? Iowa's had 13 touchdowns this year.
That's a lot of touchdowns.
No, it's not. Not when you play 13 games. 7 offensive touchdowns, 6 defensive touchdowns.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
impressive.
I'm sure there's a team out there that had like 8 offensive touchdowns in a game somewhere, like several times.
Probably Ohio State may have done that a couple times.
And then my loser a surprising loser that, like, San Francisco's defense decided not to show up for a week.
Yeah.
They got lucky to win that game. Very lucky to win that game, but they won. So I went 3-1 for the week.
Backup quarterback theory. Always works.
Yeah.
Well, you covered Cincinnati when the game ended.
Yeah, I was covering when the game ended. So here are my picks. I do have a college game this week.
Oh, there's only 2.
And I have the over in that college game this week.
Must be the FCS game.
And that it is.
It is! Wow, that's a nice rivalry game.
It is. North Dakota State, South Dakota State playing for the championship. I think this line is at least 8 points under what it should be.
Who won that game earlier this year?
They didn't play earlier this year. I believe North Dakota State played South Dakota earlier this year.
Fact checking.
Please do.
I swear they played.
When I looked it up, it said South Dakota. It didn't say South Dakota State. If they played, South Dakota State won the game. North Dakota State has 2 losses. South Dakota State has 1 loss. So fact check quick.
I gotta find FCS. There we are. They played.
Okay.
South Dakota State won 23-21.
Okay. So, well, that's why the line is, the over-under is where it is. So, I like it up to 55, actually. I have the Raiders plus 9.5. Kansas City does not cover much when they're more than a touchdown favorite.
Okay.
Enough said. Giants plus 14. Yeah, I'll take the 2 touchdowns.
I don't know how much I like the play.
That's fine. That's fine.
When
you don't like it, it's normally gold. Let's face it.
Well, I don't know how the Giants remind me of Tampa. Does it matter if they win or lose this game?
They might drop in seeding.
But they're
maybe
it's not a big deal. I actually don't think they drop seedings, if I remember. I think I read that.
Okay.
Again, great host.
From what I understand, though, the coach has said, we're playing this game. Like, we're trying.
Please win.
I would love to see them win. I would love to see them get the upset. I have Indy minus 3. I would have loved to have gotten 2.5 on this. Loved it. Houston wants that number 1 seed.
Oh, look at this last play.
And then the last game where I said we had a game that matters. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I want you people to listen, and I want you people to learn something right now. Do you really think the NFL is going to put on a Sunday night game that really doesn't matter?
Saturday night game?
Sunday night game.
This is a Sunday.
The Green Bay Detroit game is the Sunday night game.
Yeah, and
so do you really think they're going to put on a game that doesn't matter? If the Rams beat Seattle, whoever wins Detroit Green Bay goes to the playoffs.
Sure.
The Rams
are worrying that Green Bay might lose that game.
The Rams, no, they're not. Green Bay is not losing that game. If the game was in Detroit, Detroit wins the game. Detroit is 2 touchdowns worse outdoors than they are indoors.
Hopefully it's cold.
The high on Sunday is supposed to be 32, so you got to figure come night game it'll be in the mid-20s.
That's not
Jared Goff really doesn't play too well outdoors in cold. Green Bay is winning that game. Detroit averages 19 points away from home. At home they average 33. Huge difference.
Green Bay just put up almost 50 on probably a better defense than Detroit.
Green Bay doesn't lose in December.
It's January.
I know, but
it's still January. You said that last week.
They don't lose in December, meaning the last month of the season they don't lose.
You're right. They don't.
Green Bay is winning this game, and the game is really going to matter because the Rams are going to beat Seattle straight up. So my picks are North Dakota State, South Dakota State over 47.5. The Raiders plus 9.5. The Giants plus 14. Indy minus 3. And the Rams plus 6. And that is this week's Phatts Phantastic Phive. We will
I
do.
thought you were going to take the Rams. You took them in the straight up pool.
I did. That should have been a little clue. So, we will still do a Phatts Phantastic Phive for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, because there's a bunch of games, so we'll do something with it. But obviously, this is the last regular season week. Again, we don't have our records this year. I would be kicking your ass, so I don't want to embarrass you.
Probably.
Because you started out pathetically.
Oh yeah, I had like 7 straight 2 or 1 win weeks.
Like, let's put it this way: a red-headed, beaten stepchild would have had a better record in their parents' love than you would have had picking your
I'm getting
picks.
my butt kicked by my girlfriend, who knows next to nothing about football.
That is true.
She's the one who asked me, what does 1st and 10 mean?
Okay, then.
I just got yelled at.
Okay, then.
So, the fact that she's 10-2
Yeah.
means I'm reading way too much into things, apparently.
Yeah. See, you just gotta look. You just ask her what her secret is. What quarterback is the best looking ass? That's all you need to know, apparently. Apparently. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for our show tonight. We ran a little bit long, but that's okay. It's Friday night. What else are you doing on a Friday night? You can be out getting drunk, getting stoned, getting laid, but you spend it here with us, right where you should be. And now you can go out, get drunk, get laid, get stoned. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, Penn State Wrestling starts in 40 minutes.
Oh, hey, who they playing?
Wisconsin.
Is it on Big Ten Network?
It is.
Yeah, I guess I got something to watch.
It should be a good, decent match up until the last 4. Then it won't be probably so decent anymore, but...
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you Tuesday night. We'll go back to politics, unless if I got to work really late again like I did last Tuesday. So, until then, have a super fantastic weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which isn't much, by the way. And hey, be careful out there. See you, everybody! Whee!